Yate, Angelo Baca Yinisha, Plashchit Nishle, Kis Anibashichin, Torachitni Dashiche, Nakai Dene Dashanella. Hello, my name is Angelo Baca. I am a Navajo and Hopi filmmaker and scholar. This is me making my latest film that was featured in Outside Magazine's Outsider of the Year for 2024. And I've been making films for almost 20 years. I come from the Navajo Nation. Our traditional territory is between the four sacred mountains, as you can see here on our flag. It also spans 4 states across the Southwest, also known as the Four Corners region. It's the largest reservation in the United States. These are my grandparents. This is Hugh and Helen Yellowman. And this photo was taken in remote rural Utah in 1950s. And they were traditional storytellers. They were sought and respected by the community for their stories and ceremonial knowledge. In the other photo is Barry Tolkien. Barry was a scholar, a folklorist, a professor from Utah State University. He's the one that took these photos. Hugh and Barry became good friends. They worked together a lot and collaborated on equal and respectful grounds. They are a great example of what can be done when people work together respectfully. My grandmother, all the way up until she left us, participated also in my documentary films. She showed up talking about issues of natural land, natural resources, extraction, sacred lands protection. And these were the films that she appeared in, Into America and Shashjat Bear's Ears. So, like my grandparents, I am also a traditional storyteller, only I use the mediums of film and video. This photograph was taken at least 45 years apart. It's my grandfather standing in our traditional family plot, holding his handmade bow and arrow, and that's me, holding the same bow and arrow years later. And I want to show you this now to illustrate the intergenerational connection of both our stories and our homelands. And that we are all protectors of our stories, our images, our culture, our voices. And so why is it important and necessary to protect our images? One good example that you may be familiar with is Edward Curtis. His photographic project of documenting hundreds of Native Americans all over North America is famous. People love his portraiture. However, he also would use other people that were not representative of their tribes, sometimes in these staged photographs. Other times, he would also manipulate images and objects like clocks to keep Native Americans in the past and frozen in time. And ironically, the photograph here on our right is titled Navajo Boy. And any of these Native Americans who show up in his portraits, they don't own their image. It doesn't belong to them. Unfortunately, this influence still impacts other photographers and filmmakers. Dr. Eric Overton made a documentary film called Collodion, and he asked me to participate, but I refused. I said I would not replicate the same mistakes as Edward Curtis. I would only participate under 2 conditions. 1, I own the image, belongs to me. Any duplication or replication has to be with consent and permission. Any sales have to go through me. 2, that this is open to critique publicly whenever we present about it. And he agreed to those terms, and so here you are, first to see this. It actually turned out quite well, as you can see, and so I gave it to my mother for Mother's Day because I love her. And so additional protections are needed for Native American artisans. In 1990, the Indian Arts and Crafts law was passed so that we could ensure the authenticity of Native American artwork, because cultural appropriation is such a problem that we need a law to help protect it. So it's very important for us to see that there is precedence already for protecting Native American artisans who are part of federally recognized tribes. Some of you may be familiar with the famous case of Navajo Nation versus Urban Outfitters. The Urban Outfitters case garnered a lot of attention because we saw that their use of the Navajo name on their products was not authorized by the Navajo Nation. So not only was it disrespectful because they have these objects labeled like Navajo hipster panty and quote Navajo flask, it was also illegal. So we have over 100 registered trademarks with the United States Patent and Trade Office, and they ensure that we can help protect our intellectual property. Another case following this was the Mad Happy sweatshirt case, where they took the Navajo Nation seal and put it on a sweatshirt and had that be sold. However, as you can see, it was done so without any authorization. And they were sent a cease and desist kind of letter to ask them to stop selling. However, they worked out something with the Navajo Nation and donated many of their proceeds to work out an agreement with them. So we have a new threat, artificial intelligence, and what does that mean in terms of cultural appropriation? Well, back in January of 2024, the Navajo Times did a story about AI, and they were feeding in all of these prompts to generate these images because Navajo Times readers were very interested in the novel and new AI that was coming out and what they could do with it. However, what they found was essentially just a reinscription of old stereotypes. You can see here that we have shown elders talking to young kids in storytelling circles. We have a young Navajo student that's struggling in school. We also have what appears to be a ceremony or prayer happening, except with some like mystical smoke up above it. So what is happening here? The AI engine is scraping the internet and pulling the data from everywhere that exists, which are essentially just generic consumable stereotypes mashed together for our own consumption. So it undoes all of the work that Native Americans and Indigenous peoples do to fight stereotypes. Now, I was able to work with a beloved elder from the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, Loretta Posey. Everyone loved her. She was everyone's grandma. And I was able to take one of the very few videos of her with her consent and permission.
I'm Loretta Posey, and I'm a Ute Mountain Ute Indian from White Mesa, Utah. My great-great-grandpa was Posey.
Now, Loretta passed not too long ago, but somebody stole her image and fed it into AI and made a deepfake video of her speaking a white man's history that was not her own. They appropriated her memory and disrespected it so much so that her family was disgusted and reviled at the sight of it. And they asked me to pursue different avenues to think about how we can prevent this. And so with their permission and their consent, I want to show you a portion of that AI video that they made of her.
Hi, I am Loretta Jean Posey. It is an honor for me to tell you about my great-grandfather, Chief Posey. There are no clear photos of his face. This is one of the better photos of him with a strand of hair cutting across his left eye.
So as you can see, it's very easy for us to imagine that this could be anybody's grandma, anybody's mother, anyone's auntie, sister, cousin. Their memory could be stolen and fed into artificial intelligence and equally disrespected. And we come from a culture where we honor and respect our elders. So this is an affront across all of our Native communities. So what do we do then? Well, I propose that we revisit our cultural philosophies, our values, our belief systems. And coming from the Navajo Nation, our Navajo philosophy model is rooted in the world. Within nature, we see illustrated in both of these that the opening is anchored in the east. That's the rising sun, and it's showing us the cycle of the day and the night, the cycle of the year, the seasons. So everything is in cycles. And this is representative of our daily lives. And the first part of this cycle is called nitzahakis. It means thinking. The second part of this cycle is called nahat'ah, which means planning. So I propose that we have to go and revisit those concepts again and understand what are we going to do in terms of thinking and planning before we even do it when it comes to intellectual property and artificial intelligence. Not that we are just mindless consumers and users of technology, but that we are very intentional about what we do with it. We already have a precedence for protecting Navajo storytellers. Back in 2007, Milepost 398 was a all Navajo cast and crew film. It's the first feature of its kind, independently funded. All these people worked super hard from their community to make this a reality. And then they saw that these DVDs were being illegally duplicated and sold at flea markets. And they wanted to do something about it because they felt like they were having something stolen from them. So they went to their council delegates and proposed a legal policy of some kind to help that protection get into place. And the result was the 2009 Unauthorized Digital Recording Act. Just last year at the Navajo Nation Bar Association, I was able to present to all of our Navajo Nation lawyers, everywhere from back in the Southwest to DC to Geneva. I was informing and educating the Navajo Nation, working and collaborating with our Navajo Nation Council delegates as well as the Department of Justice. Thinking about the future, how can we even imagine a possible intellectual property or AI policy? And this room was filled to capacity, at least 300 people in this room. And so when everyone left and there was only a few people left, one elder gentleman came up to me and he asked me a lot of questions about the philosophy model, about the technology. And when he seemed like he was content and satisfied, he was ready to walk away. But the last thing that he said was, "This is the first time I've ever been interested in learning more about AI technology because it connected back to my culture." And that's what I propose and challenge all of us to do, is to go back and think about what are our values, what are our beliefs, what's our philosophies, so that we can reevaluate how we can understand these new technologies. We're using a very old ancestral way of thinking for these new technologies emerging now. And I want to say, as a voice for my ancestors with generations of storytellers that I come from, that this matters for our people because it's a technology that wasn't built for them. And as makers, creators, designers, artists, we have to be careful of what we do and understand that indigenous IP and AI should be respected and protected. And in another Navajo philosophical phrase, we say, "Ta hwajit ego," which means it's up to you. Thank you. Hehat.